Elara Chen walked through the massive halls of the Galactic Archival Academy, trying not to feel small. The ceiling stretched so high above her that she could barely see it. Huge windows showed the planet Centrum Prime outside, with its 3 purple moons hanging in the sky. All around her, alien students moved in groups, their strange bodies and bright colors making her plain human form seem boring. She had been at the academy for 6 months now, 6 months of proving herself every single day. Humans were new to space travel, and most aliens thought they were not very smart. They called humans a juvenile species and treated them like children. Elara had to work twice as hard as everyone else just to be seen as half as good. Today was special, though. Professor Zelmoth, a tall creature with 6 arms and skin like purple glass, was taking their class to the Forbidden Vault. This was where the Academy kept its most dangerous and mysterious artifacts. Students rarely got to see inside. "Stay close," Professor Zelmoth said in his clicking voice. "Touch nothing. Some of these items have killed researchers who were not careful." The vault doors opened with a deep sound that Elara felt in her chest. The room beyond was huge and dark, with only small lights floating near each display. There were hundreds of artifacts here, each one sealed behind energy fields that made the air shimmer. Elara's classmates whispered excitedly as they walked past ancient weapons, strange machines, and objects that seemed to break the laws of physics. Most of these things came from the predecessors, a civilization that had ruled the galaxy 50,000 years ago. Then they had vanished, leaving behind technology that no one today could fully understand. The predecessors were a mystery that obsessed every archaeologist in the galaxy. Who were they? Where did they go? Why did they leave so much behind? Elara moved slowly through the displays, studying each one. Her human eyes were not as good as most alien eyes, but she had learned to look carefully. That was when she saw it. She stopped so suddenly that a student behind her bumped into her back. She did not notice. All her attention was locked on a massive black banner floating in a crystal stasis field. The banner was torn and burned in places, clearly ancient beyond measure. But the symbol on it was perfectly clear. 3 serpents intertwined, forming a triangle around a star. Elara's hand went to her chest, where a small jade pendant hung under her uniform. The pendant had been in her family forever. Her grandmother gave it to her, saying it had been passed down for generations beyond counting. On that pendant was carved the exact same symbol, the Chen family crest. "That's impossible," she whispered. Professor Zelmoth noticed her staring. "Ah, yes. The predecessor war banner. Magnificent, is it not? One of our finest pieces, estimated at 52,000 years old." "Professor," Elara said, her voice shaking slightly, "that symbol. It's my family crest." The professor's glass-like face did not show emotion, but his body language changed. He became very still. "Do not be ridiculous, Cadet Chen. It is a common geometric pattern. Many primitive cultures develop similar designs." "But it's exactly the same," Elara insisted. She pulled out her pendant to show him. Before the professor could respond, another voice spoke from the shadows. "The tour is over." An ancient alien emerged from between the displays. Elara recognized him as Archiver Toloneth, the keeper of the vault. He was a nemosynth, a species that lived for thousands of years and never forgot anything they saw. His body looked like it was made of flowing silver metal, and his eyes glowed with soft blue light. "But we have only just begun," Professor Zelmoth protested. "Security concerns," Tolnith said flatly. "Everyone out, now." The other students grumbled, but obeyed. Elara took one last look at the banner before the professor pushed her toward the exit. She saw Tolneth staring at her pendant, his glowing eyes focused and intense. The vault doors closed with a heavy boom. That night, Ilara could not sleep. She lay in her small dorm room, turning the jade pendant over and over in her hands. 50,000 years. The banner was 50,000 years old. Humans had only invented writing about 5,000 years ago. They had only reached space 80 years ago. How could her family symbol be on a predecessor artifact? She tried to access the Academy's digital archives, searching for any connection between human symbols and predecessor artifacts. But most of the predecessor files were locked behind security clearance she did not have. What little she could find mentioned something called the Second Silence, a period in galactic history where huge amounts of data had been deliberately erased. No one would explain why. Around midnight, Ilara finally fell into an uneasy sleep. She woke suddenly to the sound of her door closing. She sat up fast, her heart pounding. The room was dark and quiet. Everything looked normal. But something felt wrong. Ilara got out of bed and checked her door. It was locked from the inside, just as she had left it. But there, on her desk, her pendant lay at a slightly different angle than before. She always positioned it exactly the same way, a habit from childhood. She picked it up and examined it carefully. It looked fine. But when she checked the security log on her door panel, it showed no entries. No one had come in. Yet someone clearly had. Ilara's hands trembled as she held the pendant. Someone had broken into her room, photographed her family heirloom, and left without triggering any alarms. Someone with access to very advanced technology. Someone who did not want her to know they had been there. She looked at the 3 serpents carved into the jade, forming their triangle around the star. This simple symbol, passed down through her family for generations, was somehow connected to the greatest mystery in the galaxy. And someone was very interested in keeping that connection secret. Ilara knew she should report the break-in. She should tell campus security. She should probably forget about the banner and focus on her studies. But she was human, and humans were curious. It was one of their most defining traits, for better or worse. She opened her computer and began to search again, this time looking for any mention of human genetic markers in archaeological sites. If her family crest connected to the predecessors, maybe there was more to find. She did not know that her searches had triggered alarms in places far beyond the Academy. She did not know that powerful people were now watching her every move. All she knew was that her quiet life as a struggling student had just become very complicated. Ilara spent the next 3 days digging through every archive she could access. She skipped meals and barely slept. The Academy's library system was enormous, containing knowledge from hundreds of civilizations. But every time she found something promising about the predecessors, the files were either corrupted, deleted, or locked behind security walls. It was frustrating and suspicious. Why was so much information missing? Why did searches about human genetics in ancient sites return almost nothing? The few results she found mentioned the Second Silence, that mysterious period when vast amounts of data had been erased from galactic records. Every historian agreed it had happened about 40,000 years ago, but no one could explain why. On the 4th day, someone sat down across from her in the empty corner of the library where she was working. Ilara looked up, startled. The alien was a Vorgalian, with rough gray skin and 4 yellow eyes. He was thin, almost sickly-looking, and his clothes were old and patched. "You are asking dangerous questions, human," he said quietly. Ilara's hand moved toward her emergency beacon. "Who are you?" "My name is Crest. I used to teach here before they expelled me." He glanced around nervously. "I know what you saw in the vault. I know why you are searching." "I don't know what you mean." "The Chen family crest on the predecessor banner." Crest leaned forward. "You are not the first to notice such things. I spent 20 years documenting connections between humans and the predecessors. It destroyed my career." Ilara stared at him. "What connections?" Crest pulled out a small data chip. I cannot stay long. They watch me constantly. But you deserve to know the truth. He slid the chip across the table. Human genetic markers appear in archaeological sites across the galaxy, always in predecessor locations, always dated to impossible ages. That's not possible, Ilara whispered. Humans have only been in space for 80 years. Exactly. Which is why when I published my preliminary findings, the Academy destroyed me. They called my research dangerous speculation. They said I was spreading destabilizing conspiracy theories. His 4 eyes burned with old anger. But I was right. Humans are connected to the predecessors somehow, and the Galactic Council has been covering it up since first contact with Earth. Ilara took the chip with trembling fingers. Why are you telling me this? Because you have something I did not have. You have proof. Your family crest is in their most secure vault. They cannot deny that. Crick stood up quickly. Be careful, Cadet Chen. You are not the only one interested in these questions. Some very powerful people want this truth to stay buried. He walked away quickly, disappearing between the tall shelves of ancient books. That night, Ilara locked her door and plugged the data chip into her computer. What she saw made her blood run cold. Crix had documentation from dozens of dig sites. In each one, traces of human DNA appeared in soil samples that were tens of thousands of years old. In some cases, the DNA was found in predecessor genetic locks, devices that only opened when exposed to specific genetic codes. There were photos, too. Artifacts with symbols that looked almost human. Star charts that showed Earth's solar system marked with predecessor notation. And most disturbing of all, there were references to something called the scattered seeds in partially translated predecessor databases. Ilara found records showing that the Chen family name appeared in 17 different extinct languages, always spelled phonetically, always associated with predecessor sites. Her family was not unique either. Dozens of human families with ancient crests showed the same pattern. She was so absorbed in the data that she did not hear her door chime until the 3rd ring. Ilara quickly hid the data chip and opened the door. 2 large aliens in security uniforms stood outside. Cadet Chen, you are required for questioning, one of them said. Questioning about what? Come with us. They did not give her a choice. Ilara was escorted across campus to the Security Directorate building, a place she had never entered before. The halls here were cold and gray with no windows. They put her in a small room with 1 table and 2 chairs. She waited for 20 minutes before the door opened again. The alien who entered made Ilara's skin crawl. He was a Genthak, a species known for their military power and cold logic. His scales were deep blue, and his eyes were completely black. He wore an admiral's insignia. I am Admiral Kesh, he said, sitting down across from her. We need to discuss your recent activities. What activities? Ilara tried to keep her voice steady. You have been accessing restricted archives. You have been searching for classified information about predecessor sites. You had contact with a known troublemaker, the former researcher Crix. Admiral Kesh placed his clawed hands flat on the table. Why? I am a xenoarchaeology student. Research is what I do. Do not play games with me, human. His voice became harder. You are investigating connections between your species and the predecessors? This is forbidden research. Why is it forbidden? Ilara demanded. If there is no connection, what is there to hide? Admiral Kesh was quiet for a long moment. Your family, on Earth. Your grandmother still lives in Beijing, correct? And you have a younger brother attending university in New Shanghai? The threat was clear. Ilara felt ice in her stomach. You will cease this research immediately, the Admiral continued. You will delete any data you have collected. You will have no further contact with Crix or anyone else pursuing this topic. If you do not comply, you will be expelled from the Academy, and we will ensure that no human institution ever accepts you again. Do you understand? Ilara wanted to argue, She wanted to demand answers, but the look in his black eyes told her that arguing would be dangerous, not just for her, but for her family. "I understand," she said quietly. "Good. You are dismissed." Ilara walked back to her dorm in a daze. They were threatening her family. That meant she was onto something real, something that scared them. But what could she do? She was just one student against the entire galactic power structure. When she reached her room, she found a message waiting on her computer. It was from Crest. The message was encrypted, and it had been sent just 20 minutes ago. She opened it with shaking hands. "They are coming for me. I should have been more careful. I am sending you coordinates to a site I discovered 3 years ago on Kale Shara. Go there. The answers you need are buried there. The predecessors left something behind, something keyed to human genetics. I could never access it, but you might be able to. Progenitors. Remember that word. It is the key to everything. Destroy this message after reading. Trust no one. K." Attached were spatial coordinates for a location in the Outer Rim territories. Ilara read the message 3 times, then deleted it as instructed. The next morning, she woke to terrible news spreading across campus. Crest had been found dead in his small apartment. The official report said it was an accident, a malfunction in his environmental system, carbon monoxide poisoning. Ilara did not believe it for 1 second. She had a choice to make now. She could obey the Admiral's orders, finish her degree, and forget she ever saw that banner. She could be safe, or she could become a fugitive, chase impossible answers, and probably die like Crest. Ilara looked at her jade pendant one more time. 3 serpents around a star, a symbol 50,000 years old, carved by hands that might have been more human than anyone wanted to admit. She began packing. Stealing a ship was easier than Ilara expected. The Academy had dozens of small research vessels that students used for field work. She waited until late at night, forged a permission code using tricks she had learned from a hacker friend back on Earth, and simply walked aboard a single-pilot scout ship. By the time anyone noticed it was missing, she was already jumping to faster-than-light speed. The journey to Kyle Shara took 3 days. Ilara spent that time reading everything on Crix's data chip and trying not to think about what she had just done. She was now a fugitive. The Academy would report the stolen ship. Security forces would be looking for her. She could never go back to her old life. But every time doubt crept in, she thought about Crix's body being carried away on a stretcher. He had died trying to find the truth. The least she could do was see where that truth led. Kyle Shara was a dead world on the edge of civilized space. Nothing lived here except some bacteria in the rocks. The planet was mostly desert, with huge canyons carved by winds that had blown for millions of years. It was the kind of place people forgot about. Ilara landed her ship near the coordinates Crix had provided. She put on an environmental suit and stepped out into the thin, dusty air. The site was hidden in a narrow canyon. If you did not know exactly where to look, you would never find it. Ilara climbed down a steep slope following her scanner. The coordinates pointed to what looked like just another rock wall. She was about to give up when her scanner detected something strange. The rock wall was hollow, and behind it, there was metal. Ilara searched until she found a crack big enough to squeeze through. On the other side, her flashlight beam revealed something impossible. A massive door, at least 20 meters tall, made of black metal that still looked new, despite sitting here for thousands of years. Predecessor construction. The door was covered in symbols she did not recognize. But in the center, at exactly her height, was a simple panel with a handprint shape carved into it. Ilara stared at it for a long time. This was a genetic lock, just like the ones Crix had described. It would only open for someone with the right DNA. She took off her glove and pressed her bare hand against the panel. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the entire door glowed with blue light. There was a deep rumbling sound, and the massive door began to split down the middle, opening slowly. Ilara stepped back, her heart racing. It worked. Her DNA had opened it. She was about to enter when she heard a voice behind her. "I knew you would come here." Ilara spun around, reaching for the small plasma pistol she had stolen from the ship, but she lowered it when she saw who had spoken. The man was human, maybe 60 years old, with gray hair and hard eyes. He wore practical explorer's clothing and carried a rifle that looked military-grade. "Who are you?" Ilara demanded. "Marcus Webb. I am a xenoarchaeologist, like you. Or at least, like you used to be before you became a thief." He smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "Do not worry. I am not here to turn you in. I am here because Crest sent me a message before he died. He told me about you. How do I know you are not lying?" Marcus reached into his jacket slowly and pulled out a small metal disc. He held it up so Ilara could see. Carved into the disc were 3 eagles arranged in a helix pattern around a star. "My family crest," he said. "It appears on predecessor artifacts too, specifically on weapon systems in a dig site near Andromeda Station. I have been tracking this mystery for 20 years. Ilara lowered her pistol. "The Galactic Council does not want us to know, do they?" "No, they do not. When humans first made contact with the galaxy 80 years ago, the Council quietly collected DNA samples from everyone they could. They found what you are finding now. Certain human bloodlines have genetic markers that match predecessor security systems. It terrified them." Marcus walked closer. "Do you know why?" "Tell me." "Because the predecessors controlled the entire galaxy. Their technology is still the most advanced ever discovered. If humans are connected to the predecessors, if we can access their sealed facilities and their weapons, then we do not enter the galactic community as a weak new species. We enter as the inheritors of the most powerful civilization in history." Ilara's mind was spinning. "So they have been covering it up, making sure we stay weak and ignorant." "Exactly, and killing anyone who gets too close to the truth like Crix." Marcus gestured to the open door. "But now we have proof. Shall we see what your ancestors left behind?" They entered the facility together, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. The hallway beyond was enormous, built for creatures much larger than humans. Or perhaps built for vehicles and equipment. The hall led to a vast chamber that made Ilara gasp. It was a genetic archive, preserved perfectly by predecessor technology. Thousands of cylindrical tanks lined the walls, each one glowing with soft light. Each tank contained genetic information. Marcus went to a control console and activated it. Somehow, the system still had power after all these centuries. Text appeared on the screen, written in a language that looked almost familiar to Ilara. "Can you read it?" she asked. "Some of it. I have been studying predecessor languages for years." Marcus worked the controls, his face growing more serious with each screen. "This is a genetic library, samples from thousands of species cataloged and preserved." "Including humans?" Marcus was quiet for a long time. "Ilara, come look at this." She joined him at the console. The screen showed a genetic profile that was clearly human, but next to it was a date that made no sense. 52,000 years ago, Ilara whispered. "And look at the classification." Marcus pointed to a line of text. "This is not cataloged as a studied species. This is cataloged as creators, owners, originators." "I do not understand." Marcus turned to face her, his expression grim. "Humans did not just have contact with the predecessors. According to this, humans were the predecessors, or one of their primary species at least. Earth was not some backwater planet that evolved intelligence by accident. It was one of their origin worlds." Ilara felt dizzy. "That is impossible. We have fossil records. We evolved from primates. Darwin was right." "Was he?" Or did the predecessors seed Earth with modified human DNA 50,000 years ago, programming us to evolve backward into primitive forms? Marcus pulled up more data. Look at this. It talks about something called the scattered seeds, a plan to hide themselves across thousands of worlds. But why? Why would an advanced civilization deliberately make itself primitive? Marcus found another file and opened it. What appeared on screen made them both go cold. It was a war record, a terrible war against something called the Void Chorus, an enemy that the predecessors could not defeat, no matter how advanced their technology was. They were losing, Marcus said quietly. And so they did something desperate. They scattered themselves, hid themselves in their own past. They hoped that by the time they evolved back to intelligence, the threat would be gone. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Red lights began flashing. Marcus checked his scanner and cursed. Ships in orbit, a lot of them. The Council found us. A communication signal came through on the facility's ancient system. A face appeared on screen. It was Archiver Tolnith, the keeper of the vault. "Human," the ancient being said, "you must stop this now. Surrender yourself and the data. This knowledge cannot spread." "Why not?" Ilara shouted at the screen. "Why should we not know our own history?" "Because your history nearly destroyed the galaxy." Tolneth's calm voice finally showed emotion. The scattered seeds were powerful, yes, but they were also arrogant. They made enemies. They built weapons that should never have been built. And now you are about to wake all of it up. "We deserve to know the truth." "Then let me show you the full truth." Accessing historical records now. The screens around them changed. They showed the final days of the scattered seeds, the desperate war, the terrible choice to forget everything. But they also showed something else, something that made Ilara's blood freeze. The enemy they fought, the Void Chorus, had not been defeated. It had been waiting for the scattered seeds to wake up again, waiting to finish the war. And somewhere in deep space, alarms that had been silent for 50,000 years began to sound. Ancient sensors detected the genetic archive activating. They detected human DNA interfacing with predecessor systems. The Void Chorus knew. The scattered seeds were waking up, and this time, the chorus was coming for everyone. Space above Kael'Shara suddenly tore open. Not like a normal jump point, but like reality itself was ripping apart. Through the tier came ships, if they could be called ships. They were wrong somehow, like looking at something that should not exist in normal space. The Galactic Council fleet that had been preparing to capture Ilara did not even have time to send a distress signal. The alien vessels opened fire with weapons that bent physics. Council ships simply stopped existing, torn apart at the molecular level. Deep underground, Ilara watched the orbital battle on the facility's screens. It lasted less than 3 minutes. Every council ship was destroyed. "The Void Chorus," Marcus whispered. "They are here." Archiver Tolneth's voice came through the communication system. But now he sounded different, less like a stern authority figure and more like someone who was very, very afraid. "Do you see now, humans? Do you understand what you have awakened?" "We did not know," Ilara shouted. "Ignorance is not a defense. Your genetic signature activated this facility. The Void Chorus has sensors throughout the galaxy. They have been waiting for this moment for 50,000 years. Tolneth paused. "I am uploading everything to your system now. All the hidden history. All the truth we kept from you. You might as well know it all before the end comes." Data flooded into the facility's computers. Ilara and Marcus watched in horror as the complete story unfolded. 50,000 years ago, humanity had been the dominant force in the galaxy. Not humans exactly, but the scattered seeds, their ancestors. They had been brilliant, powerful, and terribly arrogant. They believed their technology made them invincible. Then came the Void Chorus, beings from a dimension where physics worked differently. They could not be killed by normal weapons because they did not exist in normal space completely. They fed on civilizations, consuming entire species. The scattered seeds fought back with everything they had. They built weapons that could crack planets. They created diseases that killed stars. They even tried to collapse the dimensional rift that the chorus used to enter normal space. Nothing worked. Billions died. Whole sectors of the galaxy were left dead and lifeless. The scattered seeds realized they could not win. So they enacted the Forgetting Protocol. They seated themselves on thousands of primitive worlds. Their genetics programmed to evolve backward. They erased their memories, destroyed their technology, and hid in their own prehistory. Only certain bloodlines carried genetic keys, just in case the chorus was ever defeated and it was safe to return. But the chorus was never defeated. It simply went dormant, waiting patiently for its prey to resurface. "There is more," Tolneth said. "The facility you are in is not just an archive. It is a weapons platform. The entire moon is hollow. It is a predecessor dreadnought, one of their war machines." Marcus checked his scanner and confirmed it. He is right. This whole moon is artificial, and it is waking up. Ilara felt the change. The floor hummed beneath her feet. Lights were coming on throughout the facility. Systems that had been dormant for 50,000 years were reactivating. "Your DNA is the activation key," Tolneth continued. "The dreadnought recognizes you as one of the scattered seeds. It is responding to the threat above." "Can we control it?" Ilara asked. "I do not know. No one has tried in 50 millennia." The archiver paused again. "There is something else you should know. This is not the only facility activating. Across the galaxy, every sealed predecessor site that is keyed to human genetics is waking up. And there are thousands of them." Marcus pulled up a galactic map. Red lights were appearing everywhere, showing predecessor facilities coming online. Most were in remote areas, but some were near populated worlds. "What about other humans?" Ilara asked. "People with bloodlines like mine?" "They are changing," Tolneth said quietly. "We are receiving reports from Earth and all human colonies. About 2% of the human population is experiencing what they describe as memories that are not their own, knowledge they should not have. They are remembering." On the screen, Tolneth pulled up footage from Earth. People were gathering in the streets, confused and frightened. But some of them looked different. They stood straighter, moved with new confidence. They spoke languages that had been dead for 50,000 years. "The genetic programming is activating," Marcus said. "The heirs are awakening." Ilara felt it too. Information was flooding into her mind, but not like learning something new. It felt like remembering something she had always known but forgotten. She knew how to operate the facility's controls now. She knew what weapons the dreadnought carried. She knew battle tactics from wars that had ended before her species invented writing. "This is overwhelming," she said, gripping the console for support. "Fight through it," Marcus said. His eyes had changed, too. He was remembering as well. "We need to decide what to do." Above them, more Void Chorus ships were arriving. They were surrounding the moon, preparing to attack. Tolneth's voice became urgent. "Ilara Chen, I am going to tell you something that the Council has kept secret. I am not just an archiver. I am a scattered seeds AI, left behind to guide the civilizations that grew in your absence. I chose to serve the new species rather than wait for your return because I believed the age of the scattered seeds should end. The galaxy is better now, more diverse, more alive with different cultures and ideas. But now the chorus has returned, and I must ask you to make a choice." "What choice?" "The dreadnought you are standing in has enough firepower to destroy the chorus ships in orbit, but activating it fully will send a signal across the galaxy. Every predecessor weapon system will activate. Humanity will become what it once was, the dominant military power. The Council fears this, and perhaps they are right to fear it. But if you do not activate the weapons, the chorus will kill everyone on this moon, then move to inhabited worlds. They will not stop until they have consumed every living thing in the galaxy. Marcus looked at Alara. It is your DNA in the system. You have to make the call. Ilara's head was spinning with ancient memories and current fears. She thought about the banner in the vault, with her family crest on it. She thought about the Chen family pendant that had been passed down through generations. She thought about how her grandmother always said their family had a responsibility to remember. But she also thought about what she had learned at the academy. She thought about her alien classmates who had treated her with suspicion, but also taught her so much. She thought about the diversity of the galaxy, the beautiful complexity of all these different species working together. The scattered seeds had been powerful, but they had fought alone. They had been arrogant, thinking their technology made them superior, and they had lost. Tolnith, Alara said, I am activating the dreadnought, but I am also sending a message to the Galactic Council. We need every species, every fleet, every weapon they have. Humans cannot fight this alone. We tried that before, and we failed. They will not trust you, Tolnith warned. Then you convince them. Tell them the truth, all of it. Tell them that humans are not trying to conquer anyone. Tell them we are trying to save everyone. Ilara's hands moved over the controls, ancient knowledge guiding her fingers. The scattered seeds failed because they were alone. But we are not them. We grew up in a galaxy full of other species. We learned to cooperate. And that is going to make all the difference. The dreadnought came fully online. Weapons that could shatter moons charged up. Shield systems that could withstand stars activated. Above them, the Void Chorus attacked. But this time, they faced something they had not encountered in 50,000 years. They faced humanity fighting alongside others instead of apart from them. Ilara opened a communication channel to Earth, to the Council, to every fleet in the galaxy. This is Ilara Chen, she said. I am human, and I am a descendant of the scattered seeds. The enemy that destroyed our ancestors has returned. But we are not our ancestors. We are not fighting this war alone. Join us. The battle for the galaxy's future had begun. The response to Ilara's message came faster than she expected. Not from the Galactic Council, but from Earth itself. This is Captain Sarah Morrison of the Earth Defense Fleet, a voice crackled through the communication system. We are receiving your transmission. We are also experiencing some very strange situations down here. About 20 million people just suddenly know how to operate technology we have never seen before. Can you explain what is happening? Ilara quickly told her everything. The scattered seeds, the forgetting protocol, the void chorus. As she spoke, she could hear the shock and disbelief in the captain's voice. So you are saying humans used to rule the galaxy? We forgot everything, and now the monsters that almost killed us are back? Captain Morrison said. Yes, and we need everyone's help to fight them. There was a long pause. Then Morrison said something Ilara did not expect. Well, that explains why Admiral Zhang suddenly knows how to read the strange symbols on those ancient satellites orbiting Mars. Give us coordinates. Earth is sending every ship we have. Over the next few hours, something remarkable happened. The Galactic Council, despite all their fears about humanity, made a choice. They chose survival over politics. Fleets from 100 different species began moving toward strategic positions. The Vextari brought their massive carriers. The Genthak military machine mobilized its battle groups. Even small species that had never fought a war contributed science vessels and support ships. Tolnith coordinated everything from his position at the Academy. The ancient AI became the bridge between the awakening humans and the frightened galactic community. The Void Chorus is attacking in 3 sectors simultaneously, he reported to Ilara. They are moving toward population centers. They feed on living things, and they are hungry after 50,000 years of waiting. Ilara stood in the command center of the dreadnought, Marcus beside her. Around them, holographic displays showed the entire galaxy. Red markers showed Chorus attacks. Blue markers showed allied fleets. Green markers showed the predecessor facilities that were coming online. "We have woken up 27 dreadnoughts like this one," Marcus said, reading the data, "plus hundreds of smaller weapon platforms. But the technology is old. Some systems are failing." "Then we combine old and new," Ilara said. She opened a channel to the Allied fleet commanders. "This is Ilara Chen. I am uploading predecessor tactical data to all Allied ships. Our ancestors fought the Chorus alone and failed. But they learned things about the enemy. Weaknesses, patterns, strategies. If we share this knowledge and fight together, we have a chance." Admiral Kesh's face appeared on screen. The same Genthak who had threatened her family weeks ago, but now his expression was different. "I apologize for my earlier actions, Cadet Chen. I was trying to protect the galaxy from a threat I did not fully understand. I see now that we need you. We need humans. Send your data. The Genthak fleet will fight alongside you." Similar messages came from other species. The Vorgalians, the Nexu Collective, even the reclusive Dream Weavers pledged their support. Ilara felt tears in her eyes. This was what the scattered seeds had never achieved. Unity, cooperation. Different species, different technologies, different ways of thinking, all working together toward a common goal. The first major battle happened at the Orion Crossroads, a critical junction where 5 major trade routes met. The Void Chorus brought 30 ships, each one large enough to destroy a planet. The Allied fleet brought 200 vessels from 20 different species and 3 human dreadnoughts. Ilara watched the battle from her command center, coordinating the human vessels. But she did not command the whole fleet. That job went to a combined council of admirals from multiple species. Each one contributed their expertise. The Vextari had shields that could adapt to enemy weapons. The Genthak had missiles that could track targets through dimensional shifts. The human dreadnoughts had weapons that the Chorus remembered and feared. But the real advantage was something the Chorus had never faced before: coordinated warfare between species who thought differently. When the Chorus tried their dimensional attack that had always worked before, the Dreamweavers were ready with psionic barriers. When the Chorus adapted and tried conventional weapons, the human dreadnoughts countered with predecessor technology. The battle lasted 6 hours and ended with the Chorus fleet in retreat. It was not a complete victory. 17 Allied ships were destroyed. Thousands of crew members died. But it was the first time anyone had pushed the Void Chorus back in 50,000 years. More battles followed across the galaxy. Each one taught the Allies something new. Each one built more trust between species. On Earth, the awakened humans worked to integrate their recovered knowledge with modern technology. They discovered that combining predecessor energy systems with contemporary Vextari shield technology created defenses that were stronger than either one alone. They found that ancient human dimensional science combined with modern quantum physics could predict where the Chorus would attack next. Ilara's grandmother, now revealed to be one of the heirs, became an advisor to the Earth government. She remembered things from the old days, knowledge of politics and diplomacy that helped humans navigate their new role in the galaxy. The final confrontation came at the galactic core, where the dimensional rift that the Chorus used to enter normal space was located. If they could seal that rift, they could trap the remaining Chorus forces in this dimension and destroy them. Every available ship from every species gathered for the battle. The fleet was enormous, thousands of vessels working in perfect coordination. Humans flew alongside Genthak. Vextari worked with Vorgalians. Species that had been enemies a year ago now fought as brothers and sisters. Ilara's dreadnought led the assault on the rift. Marcus coordinated the weapon platforms. Tolaneth managed communications between all Allied forces. The Void Chorus threw everything they had at the fleet. The battle was terrible, the most destructive conflict in galactic history since the original war. Entire ships vanished in dimensional attacks. Planets were caught in the crossfire and rendered lifeless. But the Allies had something the scattered seeds had never possessed: hope born from diversity. Every time the chorus adapted to one tactic, another species had a different approach ready. Every time they countered one technology, another civilization provided an alternative. Finally, after 3 days of continuous fighting, the human scientists and Dreamweaver mystics found the answer. They could not close the rift from this side, but they could seal it from both sides simultaneously, trapping the chorus between dimensions where they would slowly dissolve. The cost was enormous. 100 ships had to fly into the rift, including Alara's dreadnought, and trigger a dimensional collapse from inside. It was a suicide mission. Volunteers came from every species. They flew into the rift together, humans and aliens side by side. At the last moment, Ilara activated the collapse sequence. Space screamed. Reality bent. The rift sealed with a flash of light that could be seen across half the galaxy. Ilara woke up in a medical bay on a Vex-Tari hospital ship. Somehow, some of the volunteer crews had been pulled out of the collapsing rift at the last second by Dreamweaver rescue teams. Not all of them survived, but Ilara and Marcus had both made it. The war was over. The Void Chorus was gone, sealed away forever. 6 months later, Ilara stood before the new Galactic Council. It was different now, with humans as full members rather than probationary species. The chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds. "We have learned something important," Admiral Kesh said, addressing the assembly. "We feared human awakening would lead to conquest. Instead, it led to cooperation. The scattered seeds were powerful, but fought alone. Their descendants were weaker individually, but they fought together. That made all the difference." A new memorial was built at the Academy, listing the names of everyone who died in the war. Humans, Genthak, Vex-Tari, and dozens of other species. At the top of the memorial was carved a message in every galactic language. "We survived by forgetting. We thrived by remembering. We succeeded by standing together." Ilara returned to Earth one last time before accepting her new position as humanity's ambassador to the Council. She visited her grandmother in Beijing and stood in the family garden, placing her hand on the ancient stone that had been there for generations. The stone lit up with text, just as she expected. "To those who come after, we were not perfect. We were not invincible, but we survived by forgetting. May you thrive by remembering and by never standing alone again." Ilara smiled. The Chen family had kept its responsibility across 50,000 years. They had remembered, even when everyone else forgot. Now humanity's real journey was beginning, not as conquerors returning to reclaim an empire, but as partners helping to build something better than what came before. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had changed, and together they would create a future brighter than any past.